The City of Tshwane has blacklisted companies awarded the contract to upgrade the Rooiwal wastewater treatment works. Tshwane Mayor Celia Brink says some of these companies were awarded tenders to the value of 291 million rand. Joining us is Abel, former Tshwane Utilities MMC. Abel, appreciate your time this afternoon. You obviously aren't surprised about what's transpired because many years ago, in fact a few years ago, you saw this coming.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to viewers at home. Happy Youth Day to young people in this country. I'm not surprised, and we are happy that at least the city has taken this stance after all. But obviously, this should not be done as a way of punishing individuals, and that it is done as a personal thing towards one businessman or business people in particular. But it should be something that is done as a matter of principle. We have always been calling for this. I'm one of those. When I was an MMC, I actually had during the time when I was doing my oversight work, I cancelled this contract because there were just a number of red flags and money spent later. We are now blacklisting such companies. I hope we are going to also recoup the monies that have been spent.
Those red flags that you saw a few years ago, what were they?
Look, it was pretty obvious, number one, that the company itself did not have the right amount of experience. If you look at the other shortlisted companies, it was probably the least experienced. The pricing was just much higher, so you were always going to realize that you are not going to get value for money. But equally, if you look at the kind of one of the JV companies in the consortium did not have the relevant experience to be doing the work, and these are things that should have been picked up during the bidding process. But be that as it may, I do think that even after we had red flagged and cancelled this, it was unfortunate. The city must take full responsibility because they allowed the company to come back through the back door, and now we are sitting with people who've lost their lives, and we are still running around trying to negate responsibility. And so the red flags were always there, just as they are. So I'm hoping that this does not open a door to disqualify companies that belong to individuals who the city has problems with at an individual capacity, but will always be looking at merit. And for me, what was always at the forefront of doing the work that we needed to do was the fact that it was never about individuals who owned these companies, but it should always be about whether or not these companies can actually deliver on the work that they need to do.
Well, Abel, you raise an issue there, and it's about the companies and their failure to deliver. So they've been paid. They haven't performed as per the contract or as per the tender. But there are also individuals that were sitting in council that appointed these companies. Do you suspect that there might have been some backhand dealings associated with obviously going against your recommendations and then awarding these companies the tenders behind your back?
Look, yes, I do think that, in this environment, there's a lot of influence. We have seen through the state capture how, procurement can be influenced by individuals with political connections. Surely some of these companies, you then later realize that they are heavily connected politically. But be that as it may, I think one of the things that we need to be steadfast upon, both as individuals who've been in the system and led the system in the city, and those who are still trying to participate, I think what is important now going forward is to really strive to building a capable state that will not be influenced and coerced into doing wrong things, because crime, corruption, collusion, and all these types of mischief are not crimes without victims. As we can see, there are families who've lost loved ones because people who were given the power and responsibility to lead have not done what they were supposed to do.
Now, you've raised the issue of those that have lost their loved ones a number of times. So let's talk about accountability. Who should be accountable for this?
Look, for this, first and foremost, I think in this case, whoever took the decision not to defend, I think when a city takes a decision to cancel a contract, when it goes to court, the city has a responsibility to defend its decision. And the fact that the city allowed that to happen, it was obviously during the illegally imposed administrators in the city. So I think that's a very good starting point to start there. and then you would then go on to obviously trickle down to people who made decisions. Obviously, in this case, more often than not, and that's where we urge officials, wherever they are, to say, do not expose yourself into a situation where you allow politicians to make you take decisions that you will take the fall for. I know that there is disciplinary proceedings against individuals who might have been working on the procurement of this particular tender, and we are calling on a fair process to those people, because I do think that, and I know one or two of them that are really good professionals, astute men and women in this city. So this should not be an opportunity, again, I reiterate, should not be an opportunity to settle scores and to deal with and target individuals who are seen as being problematic in the city, but we should do everything in our power to get to the bottom of where the problems are, because should we fail on that, we are going to find ourselves in the same spot. After all, the City of Tshwane sits with a 10 billion rand irregular and fruitless expenditure. Now, not all of it is due to corruption, but it tells you there's a very big problem in the city, and unless we deal with the problem and not be populist in the approach, but actually go in deep where the problems are, deal with systemic issues so that we can give people better services.
So let's talk about those problems. You seem to have some insight into what they are. So let's call a spade a spade. What are those problems?
Look, I think let's be merit-based. I think you see the city where it is right now, from 2016 building up to where we are, has undergone periods where individuals who should not be holding certain positions or holding certain positions, which are very powerful, which are very instrumental in ensuring that services are delivered. So I do urge the powers that be in the city to employ people on merit. That's number one. I think that's what was lacking, and that's what we have been pushing for. I for one, had ensured that in the short time that I've been there, have tried to ensure that we capacitate the city to be able to deliver for the services to everyone. Secondly, the city needs to ensure that it delivers services throughout the city to everyone who deserves services. I think more than anything right now, again, the powers that be are keen on delivering services to people who are seen as their voters, and that is to the detriment of the rest of the citizens of the city. So that needs to be corrected as well. But also being prudent in our procurement and making sure that we attract the right skill. We uplift the kind of morale, because right now in the City of Tshwane, you have the lowest staff morale that you would have ever seen, that we then start to employ the right people who are not acting, because it's a Bollywood movie. Everyone is acting in the city, and the problem with acting is that no one takes responsibility, because 3 months down the line, the same person who reports to you, you will be reporting to them as we rotate. So those are some of the basic things that need to be corrected. And like we always say as TTA, let's get back to basics. Let's do the basics right, and then we can really move the city forward.
Abel Tau, appreciate your time this afternoon, and he's the former Tshwane Utilities MMC.